Welcome to yet another inheritance conversation on the Gaze Insights platform. My name is Angela. I'm really excited to have you here. Today we are looking at relatives who don't want anything distributed. If you're in the middle of an inheritance conversation, I'm sure some of you know family members who hold on and want no one to get anything. Most families prepare for the one who wants more, but they never look at the one who's demanding nothing. Nothing should go. Not everything should stay as it is. We look at family members who want more land, more money, more control, more influence. But there's that family member who's going to destabilize all of you. And very few families know how to deal with that other personality entirely. This relative who wants nothing distributed, it's not because they want the estate, but because they don't want anyone else to have it. It's plain and simple. They want things to stay as it is because they don't want anyone to take their share. And this is one of the least discussed and most destructive dynamics in inheritance. Because sometimes people are not motivated by gain, they are motivated by preventing others from gaining. It's a strange logic, but it happens and happens more often than we would like to discuss or talk about in day-to-day affairs. But it does happen and it strains families for years. There are cases I've heard about that have taken 30, 40 years simply because someone wants the status quo to remain the same. But things have changed. Once the parent has died or the matriarch or patriarch is gone, that's it. They're not coming back. So that distribution has to occur. And most people assume that if they are blocking distribution, that person must want the property. No, not necessarily. That person sometimes is simply willing to watch everything deteriorate, the buildings, the business. They want to see the land remain idle. They want to see legal fees consume the assets. They want to see all the family relationships disintegrate simply to avoid seeing others benefit. It's a very selfish act that they perform on family members. And this is why some estates remain unresolved for generations, sometimes 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, multiple generations, and the issue keeps going on and on and on and on. Unresolved resentment is more expensive than any estate, and you need to resolve it to deal with it decisively, because eventually it becomes financial. People begin making decisions designed to hurt others, even when those decisions hurt they themselves. At that point, the estate is no longer being managed, it's being weaponized. The estate becomes a hostage. That relative who wants nothing distributed often turns the estate into a bargaining tool. They'll refuse to attend meetings, they'll refuse to give signatures, they'll challenge every proposal. They'll file endless objections. Every decision is delayed. I'm not giving my signature. I'm not going to do this. I'm not meeting you. It's always block after block. And then they'll boycott discussions, but make noise in the background. And they don't want mediation because that shows them that their reign of terror is coming to an end. And this is not because they're not doing this because solutions are impossible. They're doing it because the delay in itself becomes the strategy. If, for example, a family owns land worth millions, a fair distribution plan is developed. Every beneficiary agrees except that one particular sibling. Years will pass. The land will remain undeveloped. Taxes will accumulate. Family members will fall sick. Some will age. Opportunities will come and go. They will disappear. Legal costs will keep on increasing. And all the siblings gain nothing. And yet that particular sibling continues blocking the progress. Why? Because the emotional objective was never wealth. The emotional objective of that person was control. The greed they agreed to hold on is control. Some people would rather control an outcome than benefit from it. So they don't care if it goes to waste. And it's one of the hardest realities for families to understand. To a healthy mind, a sane mind, if everyone wins, that's good. But this particular sibling is wounded. They have a wounded, sick mind. Because they're thinking, if I cannot win my way, nobody wins. And there are some hidden motivations that we all don't see. There's old family resentment. Sometimes distribution activates decades of pain, and it's okay, everyone goes through pain. But these particular individuals have thoughts like, my mother didn't love me, or nobody saw me. I'm going to make them pay. I'm going to make them suffer. I was overlooked. Now it's my turn. They will grovel to me. Those people have everything. They should get nothing. This is the kind of tone they have. So the estate becomes a battlefield for unresolved childhood wounds. They also fear losing relevance, and some of these relatives derive that identity that they are yearning for so badly from controlling the estate. As long as distribution remains unresolved, people must consult them, people need their approval, people remain emotionally entangled. And that's what they're looking for, because no one is giving them the accolades that they want. Distribution to them feels like loss of importance, so they will delay it as much as possible. People protect what gives them identity. So if for them controlling that estate has become part of their identity, they're going to latch onto it like a baby latches onto a mother's breast. They will not let it go. And they may unconsciously resist anyone or anything that resists that rule, including the law. They will go against everyone to ensure that that role is maintained. So they are also trying to punish other family members. And this is rarely talked about because no one wants to think their own sibling can use punishment, this as a grounds for punishment. Sometimes they are trying to punish everyone because they feel they suffered, and they now want everyone else to suffer too. They feel they were maligned or they were looked down upon, so everyone else must take the heat. Or they feel they do not deserve, that other family members do not deserve peace because they want peace for themselves. They're searching for it, they're yearning for it, they can't find it. So they turn to the family members, say, if I can't have it, neither will you. So the estate becomes an instrument of revenge. We can give them consideration that sometimes grief is frozen in time. Maybe they're grieving. And maybe sometimes that relative is not ready to let go emotionally. But how do you justify that? Because in my thinking, they're probably looking at distribution as finality, as change, as acceptance of death. So you will find they will not finalize the process of putting the deceased special things, their clothes and so on, in order and getting them distributed. They will not want anything touched. They actually create most of the abandoned houses we see, where people say, that family lost the father and everything collapsed. They'll even live in a shack just so that to ensure that nobody stays in the family home, and they will lock it up. So by delaying distribution, they are still holding on. They freeze their grief in time, and they delay closure, not knowing that you can't hold on to that grief forever. At some point, that dam has to burst. The estate becomes a physical connection between them and the person who died. And we need to be careful when we're dealing with them because they're erratic. What we refuse to grieve, we often try to preserve, and you can't preserve grief. It has to find an outlet. So the most destructive relative is not necessarily aggressive. Usually it's the one who quietly blocks everything. They'll say, not yet. Can we have a meeting? Not yet. Can we meet this Sunday? Not yet. Can you get valuers? Not yet. Everything is, I need more time. Let's wait. We're not ready. There's still questions. I need to do my own analysis. I need to read further. I need to find people to give me a second opinion. It's continuous, month after month. It's endless. Year after year, they're still looking for guidance. The delay appears reasonable on the surface, but the cumulative damage becomes enormous. Delay is also a decision, and many people think inaction is neutral. It's not. When an estate is not managed, assets deteriorate, businesses lose value, relationships weaken, opportunities disappear. So choosing not to decide is still a decision. The longer an estate remains unresolved, the more likely you're going to get new conflicts emerging, spouses becoming involved, grandchildren getting involved, rumors spreading, the family becomes the talk of the town, alliances form, now you have camps, legal costs rise, and the emotional stress keeps growing. And time rarely solves inheritance conflict. It often compounds it. Entropy affects families too. Just as unattended property deteriorates, unattended family conflict deteriorates relationships. Nothing remains healthy indefinitely without stewardship. You must have a new leader take over the family. And of course, they don't want that because it kind of diminishes them. So they want the status quo to remain, no leadership. They want a ship without a rudder floating aimlessly on the seas. You have to know how to deal with this kind of sibling. They're very dangerous. You have to separate emotional issues from the estate issues. Ask them, is this really about the estate or is it about you? Or ask them, is something deeper driving their resistance? Let them lay it on the table. You have to understand the true issue, and this will change the conversation. Then you have to quantify the cost of the delay. Calculate lost rental income, calculate legal costs, calculate the maintenance costs, calculate the taxes, look at the inflation impact, look at all the lost investment opportunities, and take them to task for it. Sometimes we are too lazy to delve deeper into the actual data that can show what their delay is causing. When they see the financial reality, it may not change them completely, but their perspective is now seen by everybody. And you're able to see other people also realize that the losses are affecting everybody. Use independent facilitators in many of these things, mediators, advisors, family business facilitators, use elders, use the law. Neutral voices often reduce emotional polarization. Document everything. I keep saying document, document, document in every episode. Because the records of meetings, proposals of objectives, agreements of timelines are something you can place on the table. Documentation creates accountability. Create deadlines because they want to delay. If you tell them all of us must respond within 48 hours, they're going to delay by 4 months. Unless there's accountability, a mechanism to say that you failed here, you failed here, you failed there. And then you also need to shift the conversation from who gets what to how do we protect the legacy? Because the legacy is not just the assets, it's also the relationships. They may not be interested in protecting anything. Reframe this conversation so that you reduce emotional defensiveness. You also need to know that what is not managed declines, And every family must have some form of leadership. You can't say we are family without leaders. That's why families have heirs. There has to be some form of leadership. All aspects have to be managed: the relationships, the businesses, the property that has not been distributed, the family wealth that is not necessarily land and property. Anything left unmanaged eventually loses value. And your estate is no exception. So sometimes the relative who wants nothing distributed is not protecting the estate. They are protecting a wound, a grievance, their fears. They're protecting their need for control, and they're clamoring for identity. And until that deeper issue is recognized, you're going to have challenges. The greatest threat to many estates is not greed. I will repeat that. It is paralysis. It's the belief that preventing movement somehow preserves control. It does not. Legacy is not preserved through stagnation. Legacy is preserved through wise stewardship, through fairness, and through the courage to move forward. These siblings are are cowards. They thrive on cowardice and try to cover it with anger and try to cover it with, a false sense of bravado. So some relatives don't fight for the estate. They fight to stop the estate from moving on. And in doing so, they're going to destroy the very legacy that they claim to protect. If this is happening with your family, I pray that you find the wisdom to push through. Thank you for listening. Join us again for yet another one. My name is Angela. Once again, like, share, and subscribe. And see you on the next one. Bye for now.